Bagong taon na, kaya't meron na din kayang bagong leader sa NBA MVP race. Well, hindi makakailan na si Russel Westbrook ng OKC Thunder. James Harden naman ang 1 and 2 sa MVP race. Pero matapos ang kanyang historic 53-point, 16 rebound at 17 assist performance laban sa Knicks on New Year's Eve, marami nagsasabi na si Harden na kaya ang leader sa MVP race. Well, sumasang-ayon kaya dyan ang guest natin, ang basketball analyst at blogger na si Enzo Flojo. Enzo, welcome back to The Score.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year to you, and isang magandang pagsalubong ng NBA talk with thankfully for epic year-ending performance para kay James Harden. And wow, I remember we were talking about, I'm not sure if it's you or Adrian, at the start of the season, pinag-usapan natin sa The Score na itong eksperimentong going point guard to James Harden. Will it work or not? And oh my goodness.
Wow.
But at least individually, he's just had some eye-popping numbers. When you first heard that they were shifting into point guard in the first week or so, ano naging reaction mo kay Harden? And did you think he could pull this off, and be consistent?
Well, my reaction was twofold. No? One, I felt like Houston didn't really have a choice because it was either him or Patrick Beverley. They got Eric Gordon, but Eric Gordon isn't really a pure point guard.
Yep.
So iniisip ko rin, maybe Harden is the best choice to be their primary playmaker on this team, no? Even if he's technically a shooting guard, diba? But my second reaction was I'm excited for him because this is a guy who's proven the past 2 seasons at least that he could be that all-around, do-it-all guy for the Houston Rockets. In fact, 2 seasons ago, 2014 to 2015, people were thinking he should have been the MVP in that season, not Steph Curry. So this is a guy who has that MVP potential in him talaga.
All right, and then Russel Westbrook naman, maybe few people are surprised with what he's done. I mean, we knew he was gonna go out there and ball.
Yeah.
Especially with all that angst, admit it or not.
Chip on his shoulder.
With, his buddy Kevin Durant leaving him and going to the Warriors. Pero was this what you expected to see from Russell Westbrook?
Well, no. I mean, if you told me before the start of the season that he would be averaging a triple-double, 1/3 of the season gone already. This is not a streak teacher. This is not an anomaly. This is a guy, we are about 30 plus games into the season and he's still averaging 32 and 11 and 11.
And more than half of his games.
More than half of the games. So this is status quo for Russell Westbrook right now. We have to accept the fact that this is the reality for OKC and for Russell Westbrook, and it's just mind-boggling how he's able to do it. I mean, right now, even if he's doing it right before our eyes on live TV, parang unbelievable pa rin for anyone to be able to do that in this day and age, but with so many good coaches, so many people learning about the game, adjusting well and smartly to how he plays, and he still finds a way to put up such big numbers. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Well, we're at the sort of midway point of the season, coming up to what they call the official halftime break of the season, All-Star in a month or so. Can they sustain the pace? Yan yung tanong. Si Russell Westbrook, iba yung pace niya. I mean, literally, you talk pace about this guy because the way he plays, with all that giggle, that anger, whatever you call it, and that speed of how he plays, can he sustain this towards the end of the season?
Well, if you look at a typical NBA player, there's no way a typical NBA player would be able to sustain this pace in an 82-game season. And then, because they're sitting at 5th place right now in the West with the prospect of making the playoffs, it's just impossible. But Russell Westbrook is not a typical NBA player. No? I mean, despite having a history of injury already, he's just been able to transcend that and go beyond that. And again, parang emotionally, he's so much more invested in this season than in seasons past. Na I would not put it past him to actually will himself to be able to do this by seasons. And I think eventually he will run out of gas, maybe in the playoffs or maybe baka kapusin ang OKC, but on an individual level, I can imagine him actually averaging a triple-double or very close to it when the season ends.
And with the ginormous amount of points. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Oscar Robertson who was the last one to do this, but I don't think he had this many points.
No, definitely not. And parang allowance na rin for Russell Westbrook. Parang if you're Russell Westbrook, okay, parang towards the end of the season, if OKC does not make the playoffs, and the only thing I'm really realistically targeting is that triple-double average, he can take the pedal off scoring and focus on rebounds and assists and still make history.
Yeah.
So amazing if that happens.
All right, now James Harden just the other day pulled off the phenomenal game of 53 points, 16 and 17.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, what did he just do? He tied, I think, Wilt Chamberlain for some sort of record, the
50,
only guy
15,
to do a triple-double above 50 points since Wilt Chamberlain. What kind of a statement is James Harden making right now? And, you know, add to the interesting dynamics of this all is they were former teammates.
Yes, yes. And it's absolutely amazing to imagine what could have been had Harden stayed or had OKC taken better care of him or something like that. But just amazing. No? I mean, again, in this day and age, for someone to not only score 53 points with such good defensive schemes, but for him to do that and then grab 17 rebounds and dish out 16 assists. He practically scored, because if you convert those assists to points as well, he practically scored about nearly 80 points or more than 80 points in that game. Grabe talaga. I mean, kudos to Harden. But if Westbrook is playing with a chip on his shoulder for this season, Harden has been playing with a chip on his shoulder for maybe at least three seasons.
Last 2, 3 seasons. You knew motivation. You think,
yeah, definitely. This is a guy who he really wants to prove himself, not just personally, but globally, I guess, and institutionally. Yeah. So many people have been harping on him, have been putting him down the past few seasons, and he's really just wants to prove himself that I'm the real deal. I can be MVP.
Right. And remember, he was voted by the players.
Yes.
Diba, that year that he lost to Steph, months after, the players voted, diba? Yes. He was voted by the players.
And that's something that he was actually very vocal about. And a lot of people were criticizing him about that.
Yeah.
But, this is James Harden 100% na parang telling everyone, if you base it on production-wise, I can match anyone or be better than anyone.
Now, we're looking at the NBA, and just taking a glance at the team standings, I'll check it right now. You said
OKC's
the Thunder's at fifth, and Houston's at third. They're good enough if they maintain. Of course, I highly doubt they'll overtake Golden State and San Antonio.
I don't think so.
If they're there 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6, good enough to pick an MVP from one of those teams, because I don't think we've seen an MVP come from a not top 14 in a while.
Not in a recent memory, definitely.
I can't remember.
So it would be, I do not think it would be unthinkable. That's a double negative. But all I'm saying is, I think we would all be okay as long as they perform this well, consistently. I think it would be okay for either of them to be the MVP, even if they finish, let's say Houston finishes 3, 4, 5, or OKC. Well, if OKC doesn't make the playoffs, maybe the case would be better for Harden to win the MVP. But if OKC stays in that playoff hunt, I think Russell would have a strong case for MVP as well.
What kind of a role does Mike D'Antoni play in this for James Harden? I mean, he's had this criticism before na he's a great defensive player, pero medyo wakaw. But what has Mike D'Antoni done to James Harden and the system that has made him perform the way he has?
Well, Mike D'Antoni does a very good job of really flushing out the offensive arsenal in any star player he had. We saw that with Steve Nash, who won 2 MVPs with Mike D'Antoni several years ago. So we could be seeing the same thing with James Harden. D'Antoni knows how to maximize every ounce of offensive strength that James Harden has. And James Harden is, taking it in stride and really maximizing these opportunities that he has in the D'Antoni system.
Now, on the other hand, Billy Donovan, who's on his second year with OKC, ano naman yun na-figure out niya na, this is the way to really, press that turbo button or super turbo button on the Russell Westbrook.
Well, he knows in his barn, so to speak, na Russell Westbrook, like Harden, is potentially a do-it-all kind of player also. And parang now that Durant isn't there to take a lion's share of the touches and the possessions, you have Russell Westbrook just unleashed right now. And Billy Donovan, when he was in college, he knew how to unleash players as well in the NCAA. And we're seeing that with Russell Westbrook right now as well. He knows that he has good complementary pieces. Steven Adams, Enes Kanter, Victor Oladipo. These are good complementary pieces to Russell Westbrook. And Donovan knows that as long as he can unleash Westbrook with those pieces around him, Westbrook can be a beast, and he's been that beast so far.
Now, are these two extraordinary players redefining the point guard position?
I think they are definitely. I mean, Westbrook technically by position is a point guard, but he plays it so differently from so many other players. No, parang if Jason Kidd, who was very good at rebounding and assists, could score this well, yun na yung Russell Westbrook eh, di ba? But Westbrook is just on a different plane altogether. And James Harden is not a point guard by position, but everything a point guard does well, facilitates, makes plays for his teammates. That's what he does anyway for Houston.
At least on offense.
Yes. So
we'll discuss the defense some other time.
Ibang usapan yung defense.
I know, but all the more, whatever happens to them this season, this makes it interesting to see what kind of free agents that these two teams will attract with the way they have developed.
Interesting.
So, all right, Enz, maraming salamat. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Hi guys, keep watching The Score for the latest sports updates and don't forget to subscribe to the ABS-CBN Sports in Action YouTube channel.